Recording is on.
Okay, welcome everyone to session number 3 of the Empathy Circle Facilitators Training. I'm so happy to see all your faces and very grateful that you are here today. We have a very packed session. We're gonna do practicing intros again, and you're gonna practice facilitation again. And so we're really stretched for time. And so I'm going to do a very short intro here and just say, look forward to our time together and our learning together. And Anne is going to handle the check-ins today. And actually, I guess the one other thing I'll just do is just, introduce our instructors. So myself and Bill are the 2 instructors for the course. And Anne and Dean and Ben are the instructor trainees for the course. So we'll be doing the different parts of the course and doing the breakout sessions. And of course, Edwin is our producer, our course host, course producer. So Anne is doing the check-ins today.
Hi everybody. So we'll do check-ins. So we've just got about 30 seconds each, so they'll be brief. So things that you might like to choose to say is either to report on maybe a brief report of your empathy circle that you may have had a chance to facilitate this week, or on your buddy call, or if you've got any comments or possibly a question from last week's session. And I'll name who the next 2 people are so that you've got some forewarning. So the first person, if you wouldn't mind starting off, would you be happy to start, please, Ben? And then followed by Ben, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. It's my evening here. I'm speaking from Scotland. I've had a good week. The empathy call that I did was with Sita, and we had a good conversation, and it was great to speak briefly, and I'm looking forward to the evening. I guess this is us kind of 3 weeks in, and I'm excited about where things are going to go. Erin.
And after Erin, Maritel. Can you say your name again for you?
Sure, Maritel.
Maritel, thank you.
Thank you.
I love this, having a heads up. Thanks, Anne. And my apologies again for missing. I was so disappointed that we didn't get to connect. And also missed the Trump phobia. I'm just wondering if there's a way to do that after or anything. And had a good weekend, and really looking forward to today and practicing more. Thanks.
So Maritel, and followed by Celine.
All right, so this week's been interesting for me. I started practicing empathy circles at home, and it's been great to do it with the family. So that has been interesting. I feel that we all have found our places and be able to share what we needed to share. And I'm starting to think about how to add it in the curriculum in some trainings that I'm doing on empathic leadership. So looking forward to see more the next sessions here with you guys to learn and add these up to the trainings that I'm already doing.
Thank you. Celine, after Celine, Sunita. You're muted, Celine. Celine, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Anyway, I'll be brief. I have not led an empathy circle. I'm a little slow to organize something now. I did have an empathy call, and I'm ready to go today. Thank you. Bye for now.
And then after Sunita, Rasha.
Good evening, everyone. I had a very good empathy call with Rachel. It was such really very good to connect and to listen what she had to share. I learned a lot, and in fact enrolled for another course. Thank you very much, Rachel. And I didn't do an empathy circle because I'm trying to see how it can happen organically. So that was my experiment for this week. Thank you very much. I look forward to what's unfolding today.
And after Rasha, could we have David, please?
Hi. So I had two calls. One was with my empathy buddy, which was Lynette, and we had a very informal talk. We were just getting to know each other, and we were just discussing our experience of the previous session. I also had another very deep, long call with Sita, and that call we actually practiced empathy circle, like for I think an extended period. We went several rounds, and it was huge learning and very, very nice. So thank you. Glad to be here.
So after David, Graham, please.
Hi. This week I was supposed to do an empathy buddy call with Malin, but unfortunately I've gotten ill and I've got some headaches, so I didn't want to like stare at the screen. And so there's that. And also due to this, I couldn't really host an empathy circle. However, I managed to start organizing like regular empathy circles that would start to happen in the February in our local XR group. So I'm happy about that. That I'm about to start sharing this experience into my local group. And yeah, it's been really roller coastery week, but I'm happy to be here today and curious to learn what comes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And after Graham, Malin.
Hi, everybody. I had two empathy sessions, one with Shaima, and it was very interesting to get to know her circumstances. Thank you, Shaima. And I also had one with Celine, and thank you very much, Celine. Sadly, I got the timing wrong with an empathy session with Rasha and Sita, and it sounds like I missed an awful lot. But anyway, as to me setting up an empathy circle of my own, I'm not there yet. And I think Sunita talked about it growing organically, and so that's the kind of approach that I'm trying to follow. Anyway, I look forward to today's meeting. Thank you.
So after Sita, it will be Shima.
Hi. I had an empathy circle with Ben yesterday, which was really, or not an empathy circle, but empathy exchange, empathy buddy with Ben the other day, which was really nice to exchange that way. And as both Rasha and Graham mentioned, we had planned to do a little empathy circle and the timing got mixed up. But Rasha and I had a really nice empathy buddy conversation, which I really appreciated. So thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Sita. Sita, I'm sorry I missed you out, Malin, after saying you'd be next. So would you like to go and then Shima? Sorry about that.
No worries. So I'm not feeling so well today. And it was interesting because David and I had a buddy call that didn't happen because he had a migraine or headache and issues with his screen on Sunday. So we were going to do it on Monday. And then I got the same thing. And I still have it. I feel a little bit better. So I'll see how long I can do this. I didn't manage to have empathy circle this week because I got sort of a cold, which is connected with my headaches. It's quite interesting. So I'm a little bit confused and upside down right now, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So after Shima, Rachel.
Hey, So I had a wonderful empathy call with Graham, and he really inspired me because he embarked on a new degree in psychology, and he's changing his career path, and he's 71 years old. So it just was inspiring for me that he did that. And I had an empathy circle with some neighbors, and I invited a bunch of neighbors, but only 2 could come. And at first I was like, oh no, I wanted to have 4 people in the empathy circle. But then I realized that you could have 3 people in an empathy circle. So it was just fine. And it was a nice experience.
Thank you, Shima. Rachel, and after Rachel, would you go, please, Bill?
Sure.
Hello, everyone. Wow, so picking up on David and Malin's comments, I also am not feeling great this week, so I'm going to try my best, but may have to excuse. I actually was trying to sense into what I needed at present, and I was wondering if maybe it was some empathy. So this might actually be a healing practice, just what I need. We'll see. But thank you for sharing that. It opened up the door for me to share and be somewhat vulnerable as well. So thank you. I had a wonderful call with Sunita, as she alluded to. I just feel so much just kindred nature and spirit. And the course, I'm glad to hear that it resonated. It's ULab, Leading from the Emerging Future. So I share it now because I think it's quite like-minded to Empathy Circle Facilitation, and it's just kind of right on the path of what we're trying to do here. So, and it's free, accessible to all through MITx. If anyone's interested, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to share my perspective. And looking forward to today and getting to know more folks, hopefully.
Thank you, Rachel. After Bill, Lou, please.
Okay. Well, it's great to see you all here. Really enjoyed the last session. We're running another cohort, and I've been in several circles, so I'm a bit confused. But it's been all really great. I think that my experience in looking at the current events, I'm in the United States and all the strife, I really feel that the people here and the energy you bring gives me hope. So thank you all.
Yeah, so I, like Bill, we are running 2 cohorts at once, so I also have that little bit of confusion, just a little bit with Bill. Which class are we in? Which session is this? And yes, I recognize all these faces, and yeah, it's different than the other group. So yeah, yeah, but I'm really happy to be here and really looking forward to practicing facilitation with you and helping you grow in your confidence and your ability to do that. Yeah, and how am I? I'm excited. This is, doing this, being with all of you, and is an emotional anchor for me right now with all that's going on in the US, the challenges, and there's so many different kinds of challenges. This has been an emotional anchor for me, so I'm so grateful to all of you for being here and us doing this together.
So Dean and then Edwin, please.
I did have something to say, but it's gone out of my mind because the cat is bombing my lap and she keeps wriggling around and leaving 10 holes in myself. So I'm trying to maintain my calm and my present in the moment, which is proving very hard because the cat won't leave my lap. So I'm just going to pass to Edwin, and hopefully I can gain my composure by the time we enter the next room. Thank you.
So that's a new facilitator challenge, Dean.
It is, yeah.
I have to write that down.
Cat bombing.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of anchor, Lou and Bill are my anchor for this. We are doing 2 trainings, and there's a lot going on, and it is very exciting, and it's just feels I feel very excited just to see the interest, and we're even starting another cohorts, in a couple of weeks too, several weeks. The next one, we did the Trump phobia Saturday, and had a good turnout for that. And I can always send the link you can watch it on YouTube, or there's a link to, you know, Prime, YouTube, Google Play. So there's a lot of places you can watch it, and it really shows the power of the empathy circle. What we're doing here is just the basic skill and practice that we used for in the film Trump Phobia. So I look forward to all of you facilitating conflicts between the political left and right. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Edwin. And for me, I think, well, I'm looking forward to catching up on the call that I didn't have with Erin this week. And look forward to that this coming few days. I enjoyed hearing about the Trump phobia. I was going to go, but I was just too exhausted. It's too late in the evening here for me. And in terms of empathy circles, sort of planning our Thursday regular 8 a.m. UTC empathy circles. And for which, by the way, if you want to get some facilitation practice or part of facilitation practice introducing the method, do let me know, and you could come along and do it there too. And I will pass on now to the next session, which is introducing the breakout rooms with Bill.
With Bill, okay. I see a sitcom there. Okay, so today we're going to do what we did last week. We practiced the how-tos, and then we also did facilitation practice. This time we're going to add some challenges. And so the challenges will be coming from just the facilitator. And then, you know, you can kind of tell us how much of it. You can have no challenges if you still are, you know, just learning the practice and you want to just kind of get, you know, comfortable with it, that's fine. Or you can ask for, like, you know, light, medium, you know, high challenge, and also what particular challenge might come up for you. Like, for instance, people going over time or whatever particular challenge you'd like to be. So you kind of know where it's coming from, about how intense it'll be, and in certain circumstances, what kind of challenge. And after we do that and get some feedbacks in the how-to, then we'll go to the breakout. You will not get challenges in the how-to. I should be clear about that. So as you do the how-to, you won't get challenges. It'll be in the facilitation practicum that you'll have the challenges there. And that is, unless there are any questions.
I just want to say a clarification.
Yeah.
The challenges will be coming from the instructors.
Right.
Bill said facilitators, which could be confused with who's facilitating the circle. So the challenges will be coming from the instructors. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want them. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Lou. All right. Any other questions?
And the times were going to the top of the, so we have about
so what is it? So here in on the west coast of the US, it's 10:21. So I think we're going to be going to 12. So we have about an hour and a half, little more.
Okay.
I just have a comment, sorry, because I think actually Celine meant to message the group, and I would actually, so she messaged me directly. I don't know if you know that, Celine. She asked if you'd please be willing to write down what you mentioned, and I would second that. Are you able to write down the focus or the question for our empathy circle?
No, Rachel, it was for you.
Oh, just kidding. Sorry. Okay. So I'll connect with you after Celine, just to clarify what you're asking for. But Bill, were you able to write down, I don't know if you have a note, or usually like Edwin or someone pops in the question that we're to address in our
right. So in what we have been doing is that in this particular case, the facilitator, who's ever doing the practicum facilitator, comes up with a topic.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
and the topic can always be whatever's on your mind. If you don't have a topic that you want to pick, it could be whatever's on your mind.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
So confused.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
We do have a challenge. There's two people who, Maritel is having trouble connecting. I thought there was a note, and Lynette, she was here, wasn't she? Then she.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what happened. So we're down 2 people, and they're supposed to be in they're part of your group, Dean. So I'm not quite sure what to do.
Okay.
Did somebody not, did I miss anybody in the check-ins then?
No, I think you got everybody.
Maybe Lynette, maybe she dropped out before you had a chance or something.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be a small group, Dean. Just to let you know. Okay, are we ready for? Oh, you wanted questions. You had questions. Yeah, any more questions?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then we're ready to go. Okay, I'll open the rooms. See you there.
So we're back on the hour, are we?
Right, in an hour and a little bit more than an hour and a half. Russia, okay. Russia should be with Anne, not joined. Hi, Russia, are you there? Or she's supposed to be with, supposed to have gone into the room with Anne somehow. She's not. Okay, well, there she goes. Okay, so it's going to be a small group, just 2 of the people. They might pop in again, Lynette and Maritel. They're both were assigned to this group. I can be a participant too, Dean, if you want.
It looks like you're going to have to be, Edwin, because otherwise it's just us focusing on Celine, and I don't know if Celine needs an hour and a half of facilitation training. So what we're going to do today, Celine, is we're going to do it in 2 parts. Were you with my group last time? I think you were, weren't you?
I have been in a group with you, but it wasn't last time. It was
okay. Did we do the thing in 2 processes, or did we do it in 1 process?
I don't remember. I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so what I suggest we do today is we do the check-in first of all, so that you're doing the welcome into the welcome process. So you describe what the empathy circle is, and then after you've done that, we'll then review how it went for you, and then we can then maybe offer some suggestions, and then you can hear it from someone else. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
Deep breath.
I can do it too if you want to.
Yeah, let's not you go first, Edwin, because we'll see if, or would you like someone to role play for you first, Celine? I do apologize.
Doesn't matter. I don't care. I mean, if Edwin wants to go, go ahead. If not, I'll go.
Okay, well, I'll go. So yeah, welcome everyone to our Empathy Circle. Hopefully you had a chance to see the how-to material that I sent you previously. I sent you a link to the video and the PDF, and I hope you had a chance to see that in preparation. But I'll just review the Empathy Circle process, how this works. We start with a group of 3 to 5 participants. Here we're 3, so this is a rather small group that we have today. 4 is ideal. And in this process, we're going to have, there's 4 roles. There's a facilitator, which is what I am, and there's going to be a speaker, and there's going to be a listener, and then there's going to be a silent listener. And in this process, one person, the speaker, will select who they speak to, and we're going to have 5-minute turns. You'll speak on the topic that we have, which is whatever's alive for you is today's the topic. And you'll speak, and you want to say an idea or two and then pause, and then you're going to get a reflection. The listener is going to reflect back their understanding of what you've said, and you kind of check them. Did they really understand me? If they didn't, you can say it again, what you were saying, just to make sure, because you really want to feel heard and understood to your satisfaction. And then if they didn't understand, you can say it again, maybe in other words, or in simpler words, and then check again till you feel heard to your satisfaction. Once you feel heard, you continue with what you were saying, say an idea or two again, pause, get a reflection. And then once our 5 minutes is up, or you feel fully heard, you can just say, I feel fully heard. And then it becomes the listener's turn to speak. And again, the first thing you do is select who you want to speak to. And we just continue with the process for the time allotted. And we're going to be going for about half an hour turns today. A couple of tips as a listener, you're wanting to just listen and reflect back what you hear, your understanding of what the speaker has said. And you don't want to add your own ideas or your questions or judgments. All that you can say when it's your turn later to speak. You can say whatever you would like. And you just want to reflect back what you hear the speaker say. And you can interrupt, like if the speaker is saying a lot, you can say, oh, would you please pause? And then just kind of give a reflection, because if they speak a long time, it can be, kind of difficult to remember everything that they're saying. So with that, that's sort of the basics. Again, as a speaker, you do want to just pause periodically to let the listener kind of reflect back what they're hearing. So that's it.
So Edwin took about 3 minutes then.
Yeah.
Celine. So we're suggesting that between 3 to 5 minutes to do the introduction, which is quite hard for me because I do tend to pontificate and waffle a bit. So do we have any comments on how Edwin presented the listening circle, or any questions?
I can start. Every time I say it differently, and I always forget something. So that's even having created the thing. And what I find is it's people just, and I did forget to say, and the best way to learn is just to do it. You just jump into it, and I'll be the first listener. So I'll usually say that too. Yeah. I saw that Celine was about to say something. Yeah.
No. Well. Seemed pretty comfortable with the process. And I think that's useful. It communicated to me that it's like not a big deal, easy. And you were very thorough. I'm not sure as a first-time participant that I would have been able to remember all of the points. However, I didn't feel any stress about it, because it sounded like, oh, well, just this, just flows easily. And so those are my comments about the intro.
Thanks.
Yep. The only thing I ever add in is when you're a silent listener, is to be present. And then I seek if people understand what being present actually means. Because if someone doesn't understand what being present means, then they can be doing things that are quite rude or breaks the circle process. So that's to hold the circle. But I don't think that's part of the instruction, is it, Edwin, or not?
Yeah, it's in the recorded instructions. It is silent listener. You're just waiting to be heard. You'll get your turn to speak soon. It's in the handout too, little handout. Something that people don't mention usually is that in these is that is trying to send the information in advance. Like I try to create the container. So ideally they've seen the 9-minute or 24-minute video in advance, and they've seen the handout. So they've already sort of been prepared. So I try to prepare people as much as possible, so that this introduction is actually just a reiteration of it. So that's just another point. But, you know, half the time people, even if you send them the stuff, they don't look at it in advance. So you gotta, you know, do it again. Yeah.
I think the point Edwin made about actually learning from seeing is a very valid thing, and being relaxed, like you said, Celine, is really quite important when doing the introduction, because we're all human and we all make mistakes, and we're not here to be perfect. We're here to hold the circle, and that's a principle.
I didn't get what you said. Learning from what?
Our mistakes.
By doing. It's like, oh, let's just jump into it. You'll learn by doing it, and I'll be the first listener just to model it, and yeah. So I think that's the part, it's the same thing. It's the thing that you're talking about, Celine. I always wonder, it's like, is this too much information? You know, at the beginning, people like, you know, how much do you give to people? Like you're kind of saying, oh, if you're brand new to it, never done it, it's like, it's hard to kind of take it all in too. So, so you don't want to overwhelm people. And I kind of wonder about that. Oh, is this overwhelming them? So, yeah.
Would you like to hear another person's introduction before you do yours, or are you ready to?
No, whatever. Go ahead.
Very accommodating.
Well, I'll let you know that this is a difficult morning for me. I've had very little sleep, and I have emotional stuff going on. So that's part of what you're getting is I'm on fewer cylinders than normal.
Okay.
So that's why I'm being acquiescing so easily. Otherwise,
Thank you for letting us know that. We'll try and be a little bit more aware.
Oh, okay.
So the way I would do it is slightly different, because I don't. I'll just start then, shall I? Okay. Welcome to the Empathy Circle today. There are 3 roles in the Empathy Circle. There's the speaker, the active listener, and the silent listener. My job as the facilitator is to make sure that we hold to those 3 roles and respect the process. You're not to speak unless it's your turn to speak, or unless you're reflecting what the speaker has just said. The reflector, or the active listener, speaks to what they have heard the speaker say. They don't put in their own questions or opinions. They speak to what they've heard. Then the speaker then gets to continue speaking until their allotted time is finished. And this time, the allotment is 5 minutes per role. So after the 5 minutes is finished, I will then show the speaker that their time is up. They then are to then bring to a close what they are saying. They are not to stop the moment the time signal is given, but they are then to bear that in mind and to respect the circle, to draw to a close what they have said. Once they have finished speaking, the active listener then reflects for the last time what the person has said. If the person feels heard, then they say, thank you, I feel fully heard. Then the roles change. Then we have the active listener becoming the speaker. The first thing they do is then choose the next active listener. The former speaker then becomes one of the silent listeners. And in this process, we then alternate the roles. Now, when you're the active listener, you do have the right to stop the speaker from speaking if they are saying too much and overwhelming you. You are not to then bring in your questions until it's your turn to be the speaker. This is not part of active listening. and I've lost the plot. Totally lost it. Gone. Happens to all of us. I can't remember where I was.
Jump in and do it. What the heck?
Right, that's it. Yeah, that's the next one. Yeah, then we'll model the process, and you'll learn by seeing the process. Oh, okay. Sorry, Celine.
Okay.
So I'll bring my theatrical performance to a close there. I think I went on too long. I said too much. I pontificated, which is my problem. I think keep it short, sweet, and simple is the best thing, and learning from experience. Do you have any reflection on what I've just said, Celine?
I liked a lot of what you said. I thought it was too dense, too much. And also, you started out and you used a lot of not. You're not to speak with.
Yeah,
and
good
were
point.
Off-putting to me.
What would I say instead of the word not then? Because not is just the way I cut things off. Is that too aggressive?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Well, what happened for me was that it's like, oh, there are rules that I better remember not to whatever.
Okay.
So, and some of them, you know, don't interrupt, don't ask questions, are negatives. But,
I need some more NBC training.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was excellent. Yeah, it's a little intense, you know. It's like just with the knots, it did feel a little. So just what to do would be good. Just the two in a little gentle.
Yeah, and yours was part of what I liked about yours, Edwin, was it was very casual. It's like, oh yeah, everybody can do it. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I can do it too. Oh, yeah, great. We're learning. Yay.
Thank you, Celine. Yes, it's important to keep learning. It's important to hear reflections and to recognize them, because that's how we improve, isn't it?
Yes.
So, are you ready then, Celine?
Yes. Okay. Well, I want to welcome you to the Empathy Circle and remind you that you are now part of creating a world of empathy, a culture of empathy for everyone. And the way that we do this is we have speakers who get to say whatever they want when it's your turn to be the speaker. And then the speaker has an active listener who is attentive to everything the speaker says and reflects back. Hopefully it'll be one or two ideas at a time, and to the speaker's satisfaction. The other listeners in the circle are holding the space, keeping their attention on the process. And the facilitator, and I will play that role today, is there to hold the whole process for everyone and keep the timing. In order for this to flow as easily as possible, we ask the speakers to only reflect back what you've heard and not ask questions or give advice. And when it's your turn to speak, you'll say whatever you want, and someone else will listen to you to your satisfaction. And I may, give a few more instructions as we go along, but to start, we will, I will be the first listener, but from then on, the speaker chooses their listener, and we go around the circle, giving everybody 5 minutes to speak on the topic of what's alive for you today. I don't know, do we ever ask if there are any questions? Would I ask if there are questions?
clarifications, questions?
And any clarifications before we start? Let's say something like that.
That was lovely. That was so warm and open. That was everything mine wasn't. That was the antithesis of my presentation. Bosh, there's me. And then there's you, just like opening the whole circle process with love and welcoming arms. It's just wonderful. Masterclass. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I ditto. That's very warm, very gentle, very inviting. Had a lot of care in it. You feel safe. Oh, I'm in a safe space here, safe, warm facilitator.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I guess one point Bill had mentioned that he doesn't say everything at the beginning. He adds later, which doesn't help the first person who speaks, but it keeps from it being too dense, I think.
Yeah, that's my concern too, it being too dense at the beginning.
I'm just making lots of notes because there's a lot I've got to learn from this today. There's a lot I can take away from this.
Do people ever do agreements of confidentiality or not? Is that brought up at all?
I usually don't do it because we're recording it. You know, I do a lot of recordings for educational purposes, but if you're doing your own circle, you know, you can kind of structure it the way that you feel comfortable with. The confidentiality comes a lot out of the therapeutic, you know, world, and we're trying to bring it into the more, you know, just human relationships. So it's like every time we get together with some friends, we don't say, hey, we're going to have this is going to be confidential, right? So there's sort of a spectrum there that I haven't, there's the confidentiality I mean, it's a whole issue. Maybe that'll be the topic of the empathy circle, is the topic that will be the issue of confidentiality. Maybe that'll be it. Yeah, I'm going to make that the topic.
You, like right now, you're asking.
When we move into, when it's my turn to make the topic,
okay,
facilitate a circle, I'm going to make it that topic. When Dean gets us going for that.
So the next question is anyone up for any challenges today? From a spectrum of 1 to 5, 0 being totally acceptable as well.
Well, I would let's see how I'm doing, but I would like maybe level 2.
Okay.
1.75.
I thought you were going to say pi then for a second. 1.47.
Not yet.
I'll take a moderate.
Who would like to start?
Well, I'll start since I mentioned that. So, and how much do you have, like half an hour or?
We can have half hour, seeing as there's a smaller circle instead of the 20 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, so we have half an hour, and actually I'm gonna bring up my stopwatch here and I'll be keeping time. Sorry, I didn't have that queued up.
Have you got a timing device, Celine?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Good.
I use this online stopwatch. I'm just gonna set the stopwatch. Okay, yeah, and so I'll just hold up when your time is up. You just want to sort of wrap up what you're saying, and then get your final reflection, and then we'll move on to the next person. You have 5-minute turns, or let's make it 4-minute turns, just since we're doing a couple of circles here. So I can be the first listener who would like to start. Oh, and our topic is, what about the role of confidentiality in an empathy circle? What's your thoughts on the role of confidentiality and the importance of confidentiality in general, and just anything else that's alive for you? So I'll be the first listener if anyone would like to start.
I can start then.
Okay, listening.
Confidentiality. Now, I can understand why some people would want to respect confidentiality. But the issue of confidentiality sometimes brings up secrecy. So secrecy is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have, you can understand why some people might be, want confidentiality, but then it kind of goes to a sense of secrecy, and you're seeing a real problem with secrecy.
Yeah, we're meant to be opening up a culture of empathy, and the clue here is the words opening up. So I can understand why some people would want to be respected and have their privacy. But yeah, pause.
Yeah, so a culture of empathy is about opening up, but you can see how some people might want their privacy. So you're sort of seeing sort of two sort of directions there.
Sorry, can you hear the people in the background?
I do. It's okay.
Privacy.
Yeah, you're concerned about the noise in the background, and I do hear it. Yeah.
That's okay. Right. So yes, talking of confidentiality, I don't seem to have any in this house of mine because there's people flowing around us all the time. We don't seem to ever shut a door. All our doors are loaded with things on them, which means we can't really have confidentiality in the house.
Mm-hmm. So just noting that there's some noise in your house, and if we're hearing it and that you're maybe making a bit of a joke, there is no confidentiality there because your doors kind of sounds like they don't close.
Yeah, no, it's because the cats rule the house. As the cat that bombed me earlier left her imprint upon me with all her 10 claws, actually 20. I can vouch for the cats ruling the house. Yes.
Yeah, so it's the cats. It's really the open doors. It sounds like it's for the cats, so they can go where they want because they kind of rule there. And yeah.
Yes. So confidentiality is important, and if people require confidentiality, then we should respect that requirement. So yeah, it's a hard one. Do we have confidentiality in the circle, or don't we? I think that should be established at the very start of the circle.
Yeah, it's like you're saying that some people might need it, and maybe that should be something that's sort of established at the beginning. Is this confidential or not?
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Then let's speak to Celine.
Okay.
Start the timer. Yeah, for me, a culture of empathy is based on openness and transparency. So I try to make things as open and transparent as possible. And so I'm a little hesitant about the confidentiality aspects. So I'll just pause there.
Well, for you, you value openness and transparency in a culture of empathy and in empathy circles. And so your preference is to not have confidentiality, to have everything in the open.
Yeah, because I mean, if people want to, that's really, for people to do how structure it the way they want. I'm sort of speaking from my own personal position on this, that I just feel that a culture of empathy is that people feel open to be transparent, and that a culture of empathy is sort of based on openness and transparency, because that's how we kind of go deeper with our connection. If we're all, if we're like hidden away, that's sort of based on fear. And like authoritarian governments, for example, are sort of based on fear, right? You alienate people, you keep them, sort of separate, afraid to speak up. So I see that on one hand, and then sort of a culture of empathy is being open and transparent, and we want to sort of nurture that openness and transparency.
So for you, it's very important in a way to have agreements to be open and transparent, and because confidentiality belongs in the realm of maybe hiding or some kind of suppression that in your mind doesn't belong with the circles of empathy circles.
Yeah, but I can definitely understand that, people have really personal issues they're dealing with. And it's like, hey, we'd like to have a circle here just to talk about these issues. So I have a real understanding for that as well, that, you just you don't want kind of family issues or whatever may be going out to, to the world. So I can really sort of understand too, if people want to say, hey, let's just have a private discussion here. So I have understanding for that too.
So you don't see it as really a hard and fast rule. And you understand that under some circumstances, people may agree that they want confidentiality because they're going to be talking about something that's very tender or personal, or maybe there's some danger or something in sharing it. So you understand that may be a valid choice for some people, but in general, you really prefer not to have, just to be more open and sharing in the empathy circles.
Exactly. And I can understand too, like an authoritarian, society. I mean, your life is in danger, maybe, if you're like in Korea, North Korea or someplace, it's like, things you say, you might get killed for it, or so there. Yeah. So I guess I try to balance that time. Oh, I had 20 seconds left.
Yeah.
My clock.
So yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that later. Sorry. So you understand that under some circumstances, it can be an appropriate choice that people make. If say they live in an authoritarian society, far be it from us to be
Oh, I see. Yeah. I feel heard enough. Yeah. Thank you. That's my time is up too.
Sorry. So it seems like I went too soon. At what point do I say time, right?
I was facilitating this. I'm actually the facilitator.
That was the point I was going to clarify over.
Yeah, I'm facilitating. This is my circle. Hey, stop trying to control my circle.
Get in your role and stay there. Oh, thank you.
So you're up.
Okay. So I'm up to do what?
You're to select your listener. I'm facilitating if you'd select who you're going to speak to.
Okay. Dean, will you hear me, please?
Yes, thank you.
Listen to me. Well, I am mixed. I appreciate hearing the values behind not having an agreement of confidentiality in empathy circles.
So I heard you saying you were mixed about confidentiality, and you can see why Edwin was saying that there shouldn't be any confidentiality.
And I really love the idea of, the openness, and we're just people, all equals, sharing our realities. And I also, having been in some of these countries where people are a little bit in danger when they speak, I also see the value of having the option of confidentiality.
So I'm hearing you loving the fact that we don't necessarily require confidentiality, but actually you've been in some of these countries where it's vital to have confidentiality.
as we're talking about this, I have curiosity about how these empathy circles work in such countries, and it seems like a whole other world, and I'm intrigued. I want to think about this some more and maybe talk to people who are dealing with this kind of situation.
So I'm hearing you express an interest about how it is in these other countries where they have to have confidentiality, and you'd like to find out a bit more about that.
I also see situations, maybe some family situations, where the topic might be tender, you know, that may be a valid choice.
So I'm hearing you speak to the fact that in some families, when there's tender emotions expressed, confidentiality might be the choice.
Yes, not only tender emotions, but tender subjects that family members may be sharing.
So that's not just emotions, but that's actually subjects.
And what I'm coming away with is how much I value the range of what is okay to do. To me, choice is really precious, and that's what I'm getting from this right now, is that nothing is forbidden, the choice is open, and that matters more to me than confidentiality or not confidentiality.
So I'm hearing you speak of a truth that you're valuing the openness of the circle, and it's intriguing for you to work in such a space.
Okay, thank you. The piece I really wanted you to get was that how much I value the choice.
So I'm hearing you saying that the piece you really wanted me to get was actually how much you value the choice.
Yes, thank you very much. I feel heard.
Thank you, Celine. Celine, will you be my active listener?
Yes, I will, Dean. Thanks.
I also have to speak to the point of not understanding the pressures that some cultures are put under, being brought up in such a liberal society.
I'm sorry, there are some words I didn't understand.
Okay.
Did you say preciousness at first?
No, I said pressure of living in an authoritarian culture. I couldn't understand it because I've been brought up in such a liberal culture.
Yes, so I'm hearing you say that you haven't lived the reality of being in an authoritarian culture because you've been living in a very liberal culture.
Yes, so it would be naive of me to say that, oh, there is no need for confidentiality. I think I can understand the risks involved in such processes as this, but I can't because I've never actually had to suffer the threat that people have to in somewhere like North Korea.
So you're saying that it would be naive of you to, think that or say that confidentiality is not necessary or valuable because you haven't actually lived in a culture like, say, North Korea, where there isn't freedom of speech and where confidentiality can be a very high value, very important to survival even.
Yeah, it's life and death in North Korea. If you don't worship the glorious leader, you're disappeared. Whereas if you mock our glorious leaders, you're actually almost lionized.
So yes, you understand that it's in North Korea, you either worship the dear leader or you disappear. Whereas in where you live, to make fun of leaders can be admired.
Yes, it's chalk and cheese. And I know I shouldn't use such cultural euphemisms because it's not polite. So I am learning a little bit more each time about what is the right way of speaking about such sensitive issues such as confidentiality.
So you are paying attention to the language you use talking about such topics so that you're not kind of disrespectful or cavalier in describing, like the difference between North Korea and I think you're in Great Britain, those kinds of differences.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully heard.
You're up, Celine, if you want to choose a listener.
Okay. So I think you listened to me before, right? So I'll ask Dean. Well, part of my tenderness is actually related to the recent political upheaval in where I live in the United States.
So I'm hearing you speak to a sensitivity that's been prevalent in you because of the polarization in the United States recently.
It's actually a personal sensitivity. I was raised in a country during a dictatorship in Argentina where there was not free press. So, and there was not a lot, there were a lot of freedoms that weren't active at the time.
So I'm hearing it that you're saying it's triggering back to childhood experiences of living in a horrible dictatorship in Argentina.
And so as a child, I didn't get clear, direct, open information, but I listened in and at kind of covert conversations between adults.
So I'm hearing you had to almost become a spy when you were younger because you didn't actually get anything from the horse's back. Sorry, there we go again. You didn't actually get anything firsthand, or from the people that were meant to say it. You actually had to acquire it by surreptitious means, by actually listening into things you weren't meant to hear.
Yes. And one reason I wasn't meant to hear it is because I was closer to the woman who took care of me, the maid, than to my parents. And she and I were very supportive of Perón, and especially Evita Perón.
Now I'm knowing what you're talking about, because Evita Perón, it was in a horrible regime, and she was a very brave woman, and she inspired a lot of people. And yes, that was a really quite momentous time in history. Yeah, that was quite a moment in history, that when Eva was doing her stuff, wasn't it?
Oh, Dean, would you just reflect back what you heard Celine say? Just what did you hear her say?
Oh, sorry, I got carried away. I heard her talk about having a kinship with her maid that allowed her to talk openly about things that weren't talked about in the family.
Right. So I became kind of a danger if I spoke about what my parents' political views were to somebody who wanted to get them into trouble. That's why they were not open with me.
So I'm hearing you saying that your parents' association with the regime could have got them targeted by people that were against the regime.
The other way around. If it was known that my parents did not support the regime because of something I said, even though I was a little girl, that would become a problem for them.
So your parents actually supported Eva Peron,
No.
but that, no?
No, my parents did not. I did.
Oh, got it.
So
Right.
If I heard them saying derogatory things about the government and said that to somebody, I would inadvertently get them into trouble.
Okay, so I'm obviously my history is wrong because I thought she was some sort of freedom fighter, but she's not, was she? If she was the first lady, was she the first lady?
Oh,
If
yeah.
you could just, before asking any questions, you can ask anything when it becomes your turn, Dean. If you would just reflect back what you heard Celine say there.
Oh, so she had to be careful of the speaking about what her parents spoke about, or sorry, her parents had to be careful speaking to her, because even as a child, if she said something that her parents had said to the wrong person, that her parents would have got into trouble.
Was that it, Celine? Did he get it?
Yes, thank you.
And that was the time too, so thanks.
I started getting so confused. What the heck?
Okay.
You're up, Dean. You choose.
I'll choose you, Edwin.
Okay, listening.
It's really important that we don't learn by whispers, because sometimes if we don't hear many voices and we only hear the one voice, we can get a distorted view.
So you see the importance of hearing a lot of voices and not just, you know, having secrets, because you're going to get a really distorted view of life or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to put myself in the place of someone that is in danger through their opinion. Although some of my opinions in some countries, I'm sure, would put me in danger.
Yeah, so it's really difficult for you to put yourself sort of in the shoes of people in a country where your opinions could get you in danger. So, and your opinions could be, yeah, it could be danger. It could be get you in trouble.
Yeah, I have some quite extreme views, judging by my family, but they seem quite reasonable to me. I'm a climate activist. I'm prepared to put my body on the line for the sake of future generations. And they just think I'm a loon, which is fine by me because it means I'm doing something right.
Mm-hmm. So you're a climate activist. You have these different, you're actually willing to put yourself on the line with your activism, and your family, they think you're a little crazy, a loon, yeah, to do that.
I was speaking to my brother-in-law by mistake. I phoned up the wrong number. I phoned the wrong Tom. And he didn't answer. So I thought, oh, that's no problem. And then my brother-in-law phoned me up. And then when I let it slip that I was part of XR, or Extinction Rebellion, he said to me, oh, aren't you the people trying to take us back to the Stone Age?
Yeah, so you kind of, I guess you told the message, called the wrong Tom, and so sounded like your brother-in-law, and he heard you left a message about XR, and he was kind of critical of that, like, oh, XR just wants to bring us back to the Stone Age. So
I didn't actually leave a message. I just phoned the number, and then he recognized it was my number. And we had this conversation, and within a few seconds, I said to him, actually, Tom, we're not the ones trying to take you back to the Stone Age. We're the ones trying to save you from going back to the Stone Age. And that was a point of view he hadn't thought about, because it's not a point that's put forward.
Yeah, so it's like he was saying, oh, you just want us to, go back to the Stone Age, and you're kind of making the argument that you're trying to keep that from happening, keeping disaster from happening. And it actually got him sort of thinking about it. He hadn't heard that point of view.
And that's because of the open discussion we had, and me not fearing. So therefore, not keeping something confidential, or bombs the word, as colloquialism would say, enabled this cross-pollination.
Yeah, so this is sort of an example of the power of just openness and transparency, as you're able to, kind of share some new ideas with your brother-in-law, and he kind of had some new understanding, and that's so the benefits of openness.
Thank you, I feel fully heard.
Okay. Wrong button here. I'll speak to Celine. And yeah, I think it's a great topic, this, confidentiality. People, I mean, I record everything, everything's out there. I really enjoy just kind of having a lot of openness. Some people are concerned about that, and I think some people don't join some of these calls because of the recording aspect of it and the public aspect of it.
So this is a interesting topic for you, because it has a lot of meaning for you, and you really enjoy openness and being public, and you record everything, and you recognize that there are some people who don't share your views and even don't join these classes because they of the public recording. They're not comfortable with it, and even you've been told maybe you should be careful about it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but I there was in a nonviolent communication group, there was this kind of ongoing conflict happening there, with name calling and all kinds of stuff. And I said, oh, I'll go in and mediate this. But if I mediate this, I offer to mediate it, I want everything open and transparent, that all the circles are recorded. And the facilitator of the group saw that and just totally freaked out. He banned me from the group for open recordings. It was just so interesting to see that, it's like even people doing this nonviolent communication, all this kind of, there's this thing about, we have to keep this secret. We have to have this little group that's totally, secret, and everything's confidential. And it's also, I just found it very, very I find it very oppressive. And it's actually, you get banned from their groups for open, transparent discussions.
So you were in a role at one point of maybe mediating conflicts within the nonviolent communication group. And when some people realized that you were recording, they became very upset, and they stopped the process, and they kind of banned from it. They didn't want the recording.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, I was like, hey, if you want to take part in this, this is going to be recorded. It was all up front. It was like, it's all going to be open and transparent. If you want to take part, that's the agreement. But even that was just very upsetting to them, because there's something about this constriction of secrecy that is, it's like, I don't know, I think it can be very destructive. Yeah.
So in this situation, you had said from the start that you would be recording and that everything was public, and the reaction you got was of, no, that this is not acceptable, and it was unpleasant for you, a culture of what you call secrecy, of not
Yeah.
wanting to be open.
Yeah,
about what was going on.
I feel fully heard, and I think we're going to the next person, right, Dean? That's my.
Okay. So, Edwin, we're going to do some quick reflection on how you felt that your half hour went.
Oh, I love the topic, and I appreciate your challenges, your two little challenges. I saw that Celine was a little confused about it, but then I think she got it and then sort of appreciated it too. So yeah, it was fun. How was it? Any feedback from you all for how it went?
No, I thought it was smooth, and I felt comfortable, and I did get confused a little bit there, but I can own that as mine.
I have to admit, feeling very guilty of confusing you, Celine, because I thought this is a really personal subject. Mm-hmm. And so I apologize for confusing you, but that's all part of the learning process, was literally to see exactly how it feels. And so therefore you can identify it more readily, because you'll have this resonance with it happening personally.
That's true. It was a relief when Edwin intervened and said, okay. So yeah, that's good learning about the value of the intervention for the speaker, who's like, what's going on?
Yes. So that this empowerment is vital for some people, because some people are afraid to actually reintroduce the concept of holding the circle, because they don't want to offend anyone. But as the holder of the circle, your job is not to offend anyone, it's to just gently nudge people back onto the circle process.
How did you feel about doing the challenge, Dean?
How did I feel about doing the challenge? I felt awful. It's just an awful time to do it, but I was running out of opportunities to do it. I had reflected badly on 2 occasions, and I was thinking, Edwin's going to step in. Come on, Edwin, you've got to step in. But Edwin's so laid back about everything. He just lets it flow, and he has faith in the process so much that he knows that people will learn by seeing other people do it, and they will self-correct. But in the end, I had to do it so badly that he had to jump in, and it was an experience. So yes, the self-correction process by watching others and learning from others is a really important part of the circling. But if it's going off kilter, then we as the holders of that circle must try and get the spinning top back on its axis again. Are you ready then, Celine?
Okay.
How long does she have? How long are we going for?
We've got.
I think I went over on my time, way over.
So we started at, what was it, 1:15? No.
Quarter two.
1:45. So we've still got another half hour at least.
40 minutes, 39
So
minutes.
if we do half hour, then we'll have 10 minutes to reflect. Okay. Are you ready, Celine?
Yes, I have to choose a topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to go with what's alive for you now. And I'm not doing an introduction and all of that, right? No, I've done that. So first, speaker. So as a facilitator, I'm usually the first listener. Shall I continue with that? Yeah. So who would like to speak first?
I'll speak first.
Okay, go for it. And you have 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Sorry about that. I just had to collect myself because I'm still feeling awful for having to be so brutal about something so personal to someone who is so gentle.
So you took a moment to collect yourself because you've been feeling awful about having been a difficult listener when someone was sharing something very meaningful, personal to them.
Yes, these circles can become very intimate. And I think that's why after we've done a circle, we feel like friends because we've communicated on levels that people don't usually communicate on. There's a depth because of the way the conversation goes around. We hear each other and then we speak of what we've heard.
Yeah, because you find these circles can be very intimate. People share deeply and people listen and hear things that are very precious and present for people.
Yes. It's one of the reasons why I wear headphones instead of using my computer audio, funnily enough, so that other people in the room can't hear what's being said. I do that out of respect for people's privacy and almost a selfish need to hold the circle for just me and no one else in the room.
So you use your earphones so that others in your household don't hear other people out of a sense of protecting those people's privacy and confidentiality in a way, but also because of the care you have for the circle, and you really love the experience and you want to keep it for yourself in your home.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully heartily.
Okay. So will you, let's see, so this is the place where I don't know how to switch to whose turn it is. Dean, you spoke. So Dean, no, so the speaker. You need a new listener. No, a new speaker.
You're the speaker.
I'm the speaker?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right, because I was the listener. Okay. So I will speak to you, Edwin. Are you
listening? Yep.
To listen to me?
Yep. Pleasure.
So I'm going to go back to the topic of my, I guess you might call it political trauma in my life, because that's what's up for me right now, at a time when there's been chaos and disruption at the level of the federal government, at least.
Yeah, so the topic you want to talk about is that about the chaos and disruption at the federal government and how that's sort of impacting you.
Yes. Where I live in Oregon, we also have had, in the previous years, disruption led in part by somebody who is now in Congress and also participated in the challenge of the election results. So it's close to home.
Okay, so this is really close to home because there's somebody that is in your area that was kind of creating disruption. Then now they're in Congress too. So you're kind of like, you've been dealing with it for a while.
Yeah, he and others, and he is my representative, unfortunately. They refused to come to a session so that nothing could be voted on because there was no quorum. This is last year.
Mm-hmm. So they're sort of being disruptive, like not coming to something because they keep it from being a quorum. So they're just kind of being disruptive.
Yes, and thinking of the inauguration tomorrow and the measures that are being taken to try to have a safe transfer of power has brought up for me JFK's assassination.
Yeah, so all this that's happening with the transfer of power, it's just the memory of JFK's assassination is coming up for you.
Yeah.
Maybe some trauma about that or concerns.
I was a teenager when that happened, and it was extremely traumatic for me. It really shocked my world. It had never occurred to me such a thing could happen. And I really don't want it to happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just really disturbing, shocking when it happened. It was just something you couldn't even have imagined, and you really don't want it happening again.
Yeah.
So maybe some real concern and worry about that.
Yeah, I realized that today when I hadn't slept last night, that it brought that whole huge drama and tragedy up for me. And the thought of trying to vet 20,000 troops is unimaginable to me.
Mm-hmm. So just the whole trauma has come back. Sounds like you even struggled, you had some difficulty even sleeping because of just the memory of that tragedy and just the concern about the effectiveness of, or how to even vet so many, 25,000 troops seems a little daunting.
Yes. And like I said, I have been in countries, I've been in, where the separation between the good guys who supposedly are in the government and others is very fluid.
Yeah, so you've been in countries where the good and the bad is kind of fluid. It's not really clear like who the good guys and the bad guys are.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what's alive in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Oh, then great. Then I'll speak to Dean.
Yes, Edwin.
Yeah, just about the political, it was interesting with it's like I was kind of calm and sanguine about the Congress, the sort of the insurgency or whatever, demonstrations, or not sure the right word, that happened in Congress. So insurrection. So I was kind of calm about it. And other people were like totally freaked out. And I was like, okay, that happened. I'm just kind of wondering about that calmness.
So I'm hearing you speak about your reflection on why you were so calm when other people were so freaked out about the ingress into Congress by the radicals or alleged radicals.
It's, you know, I've been going with the empathy tent to these left-right demonstrations and just been sort of in the thick of the battles that are going on, and, you know, listening to one side, listening to the other, and the police are there, and there's people beating each other up. So kind of in the middle of it. So it's like, oh, well, that's kind of normal. It's like, that's America. It's, you know, so somehow just, it's like, you know, the Congress, they're not listening to people. They're not listening to each other. People are insurrection. Man, that's normal. That's
so
the situation.
I'm hearing you speaking of your familiarity with this turbulent situation and the binaryism and the screaming and shouting and even occasional violence used from one side on the other side, and with a high police presence around you.
So, yeah, so maybe it's just I just see it as, and I really love what Selena's saying, the good guys and the bad guys. You can't really tell like who's the good guys and bad guys. I see it more as their empathy or no empathy. So for me, it's like, oh, this is another empathy deficit. Okay, we've had a whole bunch of empathy deficits. The country is in an empathy deficit. Here's another manifestation of another empathy deficit. What can I do to create more empathy, you know, kind of in this situation? How do I listen to the different parties? How do I bring them together into, you know, empathic dialogue?
So I'm hearing you speaking to your need, or not need, your
vision,
mission
ambition,
and vision to bring more empathy into this empathy cultural deficit that's currently prevalent in most of the democratic countries, it seems.
Yeah, because you know, when I went to the first demonstration, you know, it was like the political right was coming to Berkeley, and they were kind of set up. They'd set up the night before because they were trying to kind of hold their space. And, you know, and I was like nervous and afraid, like, who are these people, you know, going, and I go over it, and I had my little thing which has empathy kisses in it, little chocolates. I got my card, and I go say, hey, would you like, you know, I'm a little nervous, would you like an empathy kiss? And, you know, and these are the people who were there, right? They're the same folks. And they were actually kind of friendly. If, you know, I could talk to them and, you know, actually kind of had a real connection with them. So, yeah, so I kind of see that. I mean, I have those memories of, you know, you go offer them an empathy kiss, offer them some free empathy, and, you know, they're kind of amiable.
So I'm hearing you speaking of the fact that you first encountered, or you first put into practice that the empathy tent in a quite hostile environment, whereby there was people from the far right had come over and owned the land and taken control, and so you with trepidation went towards them with this box of kisses and used the word empathy, and instead of actually getting them as the monsters that they'd been portrayed, you actually realized that actually they were okay people as people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
This, Celine.
Yes.
This speaks to me of, I've been saying it for a while now. I came across this concept barefaced the other day of integrity, and what I value as my integrity is not necessarily someone else's.
Yes, so this is the meaning, one of the meanings this has for you is understanding that your notion of integrity is not necessarily the same as somebody else's notion of integrity.
And so it's important that we speak so that we can see the commonality, rather than allow our social media to enhance the divisions.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And so it's important that we speak to each other and hear each other rather than let social media run the conversation.
Because it will do it, because it's not a devious device, but because it's an algorithm that has no soul and just does what it's told to do. It's a bit of code that's stupid. It's not deviant or maleficent. If you program something stupidly, it is stupid. So therefore, you've got to be very careful as to how you program these algorithms, because if you let these algorithms take control, then you actually lose the human context and continuity of what context and the conversation is, and you end up in these massive silos of isolationism and radicalism, and no one actually speaks to anyone because everyone hates each other, and they just become more and more divided and more isolated.
So
and this
pause so that I can reflect back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, what I'm hearing is that if people aren't speaking to each other directly and are depending on social media, they will be misled because social media is run by algorithms that are not human, and that will lead people astray and far from connecting.
Yeah, because they have no empathy. They have no joint connection. They have no value system with each other that allows them to have this contact, and this contact is important.
Right. There's no empathy. There's no really hearing each other or listening or learning from each other. It's just life by machine.
Yeah, a dystopian future that has been propagated since the 1930s with Brave New World and other really good sci-fi that aren't really sci-fi anymore. They're happening, and that's quite shocking.
Because it leads to a dystopian reality that where machines are running the show, and this dystopian view has started in the 1930s and continued, and we are living it in kind of our present day.
Yeah, because they've spoken of it. Who's they? I don't know who they is, but I mean, some great authors and thinkers of the beginning of the 20th century spoke of these things, and that was in the STEAM age. So now we're in the computer silicon age. Well, what's going to happen next?
Mm-hmm. So yes, these authors that first proposed this dystopian view in the early 20th century, that was the STEAM age, and it has continued and developed and become reality now that we are in the kind of the digital age.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, so again, I'm confused. Who goes next?
So as the speaker, you get to choose who your active listeners.
So Dean, will you hear me, please?
Yes, I'll hear you, Celine.
Okay. I don't know anymore what to say.
I hear you've come to some pause and you don't know what to say, and it's okay not having anything to say. You can just sit there and sit in silence, because silence is a really important thing, isn't it?
It is. But I'll say something about today. I went for a little walk this morning, and I live in a very lovely place where we have a lot of alleys. And along an alley, there was somebody had put a little cardboard that said, had a very pretty design, Black Lives Matter. And then on top, it said, I am listening and learning.
I'm hearing you talk about your location, whereby you seem to have some very pretty alleyways, and you were going for a walk down one of these pretty alleyways, and you came across this arch of cardboard, and on this arch was written in some very beautiful script, Black Lives Matter, and then more importantly above it was written, I am listening and learning.
Yes. And that touched me very much. I live in a very white community, and I thought that was a great message. And it's a new sign. I walk by almost every day, so felt like a genuine response to the realities of this country in this moment.
So I'm hearing you speak of this new presence in your environment of someone actually acknowledging the Black Lives Matter movement and building this arch that then allowed you to see that someone else had woken up in the neighborhood. So you weren't feeling that you were the only person there that was present to what was actually going on and seeing what's going on in the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes. And also nearby, we have a very long fence along railroad tracks on which are hung many T-shirts with the names of different Black people of color who have been murdered mostly by the police.
So I'm hearing you speak of this monument to all people that have been murdered by the police, and this monument is made up of what it seems to me like different colored T-shirts, and these different colored T-shirts have been hung up on a railing as a statement of how many people have been killed by the police and by their excessive use of force against a certain racial class.
Yes. So for me to see that response, I am listening and learning, was deeply satisfying, because I think of it as an honest and positive response for white people in this moment.
So I'm hearing that you're appreciating the fact that in your white environment, there is this memento to the Black Lives Matter, and you've seen this wonderful arch, and this wonderful arch is a representation of people actually being present to this change in the society that's going on around you.
Yes, and that I think it's I like the response, put it that way. I support it.
So I'm hearing you acknowledging the fact that it resonates within you, and you actually are feeling that this is a good thing, that it's actually resonating, and that you like the fact that people are acknowledging the trauma of what's going on with the police murders.
Well, I wasn't going there. My time is up. It was mostly that I wanted you to know that it's hard to know how white people can respond. I think that was a good way. I am listening and learning. Thank you.
So I'm hearing you speak of the fact that it's very hard for the white people to acknowledge what's actually going on around them. But this memento, or sorry, this monument and in this arch spoke to you that a good way that people were actually acknowledging what's been going on in the murders in the Black community across America. Or is that a wrong representation of what you've said?
Yeah, well, mostly that I see it as an appropriate, I hate that word. I like the idea of people taking that stance. I am listening, I am learning.
Oh, so I'm hearing you now talking about the fact that you like the idea that people are actually open to the Black Lives Movement matter and the Black Lives Matter, because over here we're still actually in the dark ages when it comes to that, because there's still not that much Black Lives Matter over here, because our colonialism allows us to actually deny that and pretend that there's no such thing as Black Lives Matter because we think that we are superior as the white master race that's gone around and colonized the world. And I can see you chuckling away because you've suddenly realized what's happening, which is good. But you haven't actually told me to stop.
Thank you. I hear you. You could have a great conversation about this at another time.
Seriously though, I hear that you're acknowledging the fact that what you've seen speaks to you of a new possibility.
Yes, that works. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
We just have 12 minutes left.
So should we stop now, Celine, or would you like?
I think we should do the debrief. Yeah.
I think we should do the debrief. Yeah.
Okay.
So from my point of view, how does it feel for you?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I regret that my confusion, I think it does have a lot to do with not having slept. And it's not only that. That's a place for me to focus, to keep. I mean, it's only 3 people here and I got confused. Maybe that's partly why, because we were going around. But I see that as something for me to work on. I wasn't overwhelmed by any other part of it. I enjoyed the conversation and the listening, and so that's what I'm thinking. I wasn't sure how much to intervene with you in this last piece, when and where. So that's something for me to work on as well.
Okay, Edwin?
Yeah, just sending a notice 10 minutes to closing. Yeah, Celine it's just very warm, very gentle. It's like a, very personal sort of a feeling. I did, the challenges, I appreciate Dean's, challenges in there. He's kind of slips it in. And I guess that you gotta, as a facilitator, you gotta sort of be aware that, oh, I'm facilitating this. I'm trying to keep everyone on track. But that does kind of, if you're tired and stuff, it not as maybe tuned into that. So, but it was all very, very pleasant and enjoyable.
From my point,
it's a lot with the attitude. So I think it's a lot, just the warmth of the attitude kind of creates a warm, inviting space. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I've just been cat bombed from around the legs this time. She will definitely have my attention shortly. I don't think she'll appreciate my attention because I'll be giving her big strokes. So, Celine, from my point of view as the facilitator of the session today, I ended up becoming very unsubtle. I had on 2 occasions I'd been reflecting you and gone off in little rants and added in lots of things of my own. But you were so intent on hearing, you didn't think about like, oh, is he putting his own spin on it, or is he actually speaking of what he's heard, which is a very hard thing to do. And it's something I'm still learning myself of when to step in, because you don't want to trample on that person, especially as you're such a gentle person and you have so much empathy. It's very hard to then impose the circle. But in the circle, we have to respect everyone in it. And if we allow someone to speak for too long or go off piste, it sets waves in the other participants within the circle.
Yes.
So sometimes, yes.
I saw it adds to the confusion. I've been able to intervene when the person is asking questions or giving advice, something really obvious, but with yours, like you said, I'm trying to understand, and I'm getting lost in, it's like Alice in Wonderland is, whoa, I'm off in this world. So thank you. It was a great challenge, and I hear you. I think I want to be sharper about, wait a minute, we've gotten lost here.
Yes, maybe I was too subtle. So, I mean, in the end, I tried to not be subtle, but then I didn't want to, especially as we've been talking about such really good topics. And in the circle today, it's been very hard for me to try and take it off piste or introduce a challenge. Because like you said, I've been very cognizant of the fact that it's a really important subject. And how do you step on the toes of a really important subject like that? It's got to be done with respect. But we've got to respect the circle and the other people within the circle. And that's the hard part. That's the skill. It's a very simple tool to learn, but it's going to take a lifetime to master. Edward's been at it 20 years. I've only been at it basically a year, so I'm a novice. So learning the difference between the two roles is an important skill set that is best done through practice.
Yes, thank you. I agree. That's what I need, practice. And you're an excellent challenge. Thank you.
You're an excellent challenge. Yeah, thanks for that, Dean.
I did, for both of you, I was trying to not be present by doing other things as well, by going off and looking away, but no one picked up on that. Maybe I was being too subtle, but then I was told to be gentle, so I was trying to be gentle.
Well,
but I guess gentle doesn't mean too subtle. I guess gentle means not being too subtle, but actually not being too aggressive. Sorry, Celine.
So that's a question that I have had, because an empathy circle I did, my son, I knew was looking at his phone. I mean, and how do you respond to somebody who's not paying attention to other things? I mean,
from what I've learned from Edwin is literally you then reflect what they're doing. You then say, I see that you're doing something there. And so therefore you re-engage them back into the circle rather than telling them off for not actually being present in the circle.
Yeah.
Lou and Edwin both been very good at teaching me that this is a far more effective way of pulling someone back to the circle rather than saying, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's like when it's your turn, select them and say, it really bothers me. I feel kind of confused when you're sort of detached. I'm not quite sure what to do because, it seems like we should all sort of be present here, and then they reflect it back. So you do the teaching through the reflection, right? You get them to reflect. I mean, that's just one technique that I've used with the intention of staying within the process. It's not me I'm always concerned about stepping out of the process and being the teacher. But if we're within the process, then we're sort of holding the process. So that's one little technique I've found helpful. Like there was once somebody was holding up this, like there's the silent listener, and they're like holding up these signs, in the background, like, he was a sign maker. He was Antifa sign maker. And he was, just totally sort of hyper. And like people are trying to talk and he's like holding up. And then when it was my turn, I said, when you do that, it really bothers me because you're distracting from the attention. He reflected that back. I didn't like stop, during him doing it and just correct him. I did it through the process. So doing that as much as possible, I find helpful. I'm always concerned about being too much of the teacher, so.
I'm glad I asked because I've wondered about that.
I'm still very authoritarian. I need polishing still. I'm still
You're a little
black
bit
and
of
white.
the teacher. Yeah, you can be a little
Got
bit
to
of a
be more
teacher.
subtle.
Okay. Yeah, I'm so glad I asked because I think I would be afraid to seem like I'm shaming.
Right. Uh-huh.
So,
But by them reflecting it back, it kind of transforms it. It's like the empathy sort of transforms it from stepping outside of the process and shaming it. And even if you want to be a teacher, teach it with the reflection, because that transforms whatever into more connections. I guess the teaching and whatever can be disconnecting, right? And the empathy is always connects.
yeah.
You know, it's like it's showing, oh, I'm connecting with you, you're connecting with me. So it's bringing it into that feeling of connection.
Plus, you're speaking about yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
You're doing something wrong. It's like what you're doing is difficult for me.
Yeah. Well, you can, yeah, you're a real asshole. Well, I really hear you say I'm an asshole. Is that right? That's kind of like connecting, actually. It's like there's the judgment, and then you get the judgment reflected, and it actually creates a little bit of a connection, you know? So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I mean, there's two levels. We're talking about two different levels, right? So there, yeah.
So there's the aggressive circle work, whereby you would use that sort of language. And then there's the non-aggressive circle work where you wouldn't use such languages there, Edwin. Although I hear that you can actually speak what's current for you. So if that's like, current for you, it's current.
I always, you know, it's totally, there's no, oh, you have to use I statements. You have to be nice. It's like, just say what you want. You're totally free to say what you want is how I always frame it, you know.
I think that's a key piece. I love that, and I love emphasizing that, because I think when it's your turn, you can say what you want.
And you will be heard to your satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to close the room, so we'll have, just giving you a heads up, we've got 1 minute before we're sent back.
Well, thank you everyone for being so personable, and I always enjoy these little moments of sharing.
And thanks for your facilitation and setting all this up, you know, hosting this already, Dean. People are coming back.
I just wanted to, Malin was having a headache, and so she participated for the full thing and did the full exercise, but she was feeling really tired, and so she had to drop out. But she'll be back
we had
next.
2 people in our group that one person just had technical issues, couldn't get connected. Okay. And so everybody should be coming back now.
Thanks, Sunita. Great job.
Graham, I'd love for you to finish your sentence. I don't know if that's allowed.
Yeah, please do, Graham.
Thank you.
Graham was just in the mid-sentence. Sorry about that.
So was Sunita.
I was saying to the group and Rachel and Russia that I was flummoxed in a lot of cases. And I was even saying to myself, now, come on, Graham, you are the facilitator. You got to do something here, you know? And I found at one stage I was being just a little bit too aggressive when I was trying to address Anne's role playing. But it was all a good experience. And thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Graham.
Well, welcome back, everybody. And so I guess now we have 25 minutes for some kind of closing comments. And I guess we'd love to hear about that experience, how your experience was, any insights, any learning that came up for you. So a couple of questions then for these debrief checkouts. How was your experience? How might it have changed your feelings about facilitating? And another question, I'll call on each of you so we can get through all of us in 20 or 25 minutes. Graham, do you want to start with that? Pick up from where you left off.
Okay, I'd like to reply on two levels. The 2 takeaways. One is a personal one, which is why I'm in the empathy circles and studying empathy. Rachel and I both experienced the the beauty of changing from a world of anxiety to one of positive feelings when you are heard. And that was a real learning lesson for the circle today. The other one is, as a facilitator, not forgetting my role when I'm the facilitator, and of course then is learning to cope with some of the issues that arise as the facilitator. So those are my two takeaways, and I enjoyed today's lessons. Thank you all.
Thanks, Graham, for those takeaways. Sita.
Yeah, it was. I really appreciated the practice today, and it was very helpful experience to get interruptions. And one thing that happened that was very helpful was we were having a particular kind of interruption via the chat. And I didn't want to interrupt the conversation that was happening. And so I waited until the end to say something. And then but that experience, some feedback and then reflecting on it myself, that experience sort of led me to feel like, oh, it would be better to intervene more quickly. So that was helpful. It was also very useful to see how distracting it can be, and stretching those muscles of holding the space when there's more distractions. So it was a good experience.
Thanks, Ida, for that feedback. Rachel?
Well, I am just scared silly to, no, I had some feelings of anxiety, some real feelings with all the distractions, and Anne did like a fabulous job of role playing. And even though I knew that she was just role playing, it was still like working up my lack of control. And I had to really let that go. I was amazed, like really surprised though, to find that the process just still held itself. Like Graham kind of alluded to, my feelings of anxiety just like instantly, as soon as it was my turn to speak again, it instantly brought it diffused down. And then the circle was kind of like back on, and we were in this flow state. And that was just a real takeaway for me, just to fully trust in this process, as well as like allow participants to self-correct. And it's not just my process as a facilitator to hold and own. I just thought that was really beautiful, like in a really powerful way. Taking that away. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. That sounds like a powerful experience. Shema.
It was a great experience. Our two instructors did a great job of answering our questions, and like I had some questions about silence and not knowing what to say, and when kids get bored, and in the group during a discussion we talked about what I think Malin talked about, how these empathy groups, empathy course that we're taking is very high quality. And I think the topic was gratitude, and she was very grateful for the high quality that these empathy classes are, and the instructors. And so I really agree with that. And it was really fun. Bill was great. He was really funny. He started trying to sell t-shirts during one session. And we just all had a good laugh, but it was also really good practice for conducting empathy circles. And I think one strength I was told was that I kept the flow of the circle going. And maybe one thing I could work on is just how to stop someone from disrupting the group without turning them off from participating.
Great, thanks, Shema, for your learning and questions. Erin.
I was feeling very grateful for our circle, and especially I want to say for everyone in the circle, actually, at this time chose to have the challenge from our instructor. And I just want to thank them because I feel like it was really, it was very challenging for me when it was my turn and I was challenged, and I felt like I learned a lot, but I learned so much from witnessing the way they handled things too, and just to get to watch, that was great. So thank you for doing that, and then also for Lou for giving us great challenges, and I felt like it just like overall. I think I feel, even more committed getting to have that experience, which I was sort of like, anticipating and feeling anxious about. So, actually getting to, practice that, I feel even better about it all. So that's my takeaways.
Thanks for your appreciation, Erin. Sunita?
So thank you very much. Yes, I would also like to thank my team. It was a great learning experience. Thank you, Lou, for all the challenges and the experience and putting us into that state of anxiety and teaching us, like giving us that experience of how to carry on and how to keep the structure of the circle going. So yeah, thank you to Erin and David. Wonderful. I learned a lot from both of you. So yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm just I just want to make a comment and say to you, Sunita, because you were the last one and we got thrown out of the room right in the middle of you trying to corral me, or not corral me, but respond to what I was doing. Your response to me was wonderful. So I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate what you did.
Thank you.
That sounds fantastic, really useful. Celine?
Well, I learned a lot also. We had a small circle and Edwin was part of it, and we had the first topic was on confidentiality. In the course of that, I feel I got a much more vibrant sense of the philosophy and values of the Empathy Circle. So I appreciate that. The challenges were difficult for me. I got confused and lost as my listener is going all over the place and I'm trying to follow him instead of saying, well, so it was really good practice, and I'm still feeling kind of confused. So appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to practice. That's what I want.
Sounds good. Thanks for sharing your experience. David?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the task of just dealing with the challenges was way harder for me. I got so I don't know. I just needed to debrief straight after the challenge. I was actually sweating after after being a facilitator. So I hope that won't happen in real life, but we may never know. I'm really grateful for Lou for being so wonderful and also hilarious challenger, and to Erin and Sunita for just creating really wonderful circle where we all expressed that we all felt safe about just practicing, but also we just really felt good. It was we could share it. I think what Rachel said, that when I felt thrown, like when I felt moved somehow, I could just share it on the next turn, and that what made it beautiful. So yeah, I'm really thankful for this week. I feel the challenge was hard, but as the anxiety has dropped, I just kind of feel empowered to go on and to share this into the world. So thank you all.
Amazing. Thanks, David. Russia?
Yeah, so while we were coming back to this main room and while throughout the session, Abraham, Rachel, and Anne, I had the feeling that we were all dealing with the challenges really well. Things were going good. But surprisingly, right now, I feel like my energy and enthusiasm has actually come down from how it was at the beginning, right? So I think what happened here is subconsciously, I think the challenges, even though I didn't feel it at that point in time, but it has kind of affected me in some way. So I guess a challenge for me would be how on days when I have an empathy circle, a facilitation where there are challenges, how can I not, let those challenges affect me after the empathy circle or after the facilitation is ended? Because sometimes we tend to carry the feelings and the emotions from that session back, right? So that is a very big challenge for me, I guess. Otherwise, it was great, a lot of learning today. And it's even surprising to me how some, or most of you kind of did feel empowered or a lot better after such a challenging session, right? So that it's nice to know how, while I felt the opposite, there are a lot of people who did feel the other way, and so I could learn from that, right? And yeah, so thank you. It was a huge learning experience. Yeah.
Thanks, Rasha. Yeah, I can do my checkout debrief. I think we had a good time. Had a lot of fun, a lot of learning. I guess it was useful practice for me to practice facilitating, and really interesting to see the topics people were bringing and to hear people's experience. Bill, your experience in empathy circles, and also to see each of our approaches, different approaches. Had a good and useful time. Dean, do you want to?
Yes, we had a small circle, which meant it was a very intimate circle, which meant it was very challenging being the challenger, because some of the subjects we were talking about were very, well, they were of the heart. And I hated to have to stamp over the validity of what we were talking about. But this is a challenge that the challengers have to face sometimes. And as an unpolished diamond, I'm still being polished up. I'm a bit teacher, and I've got to learn to be a bit more open and a bit more friendly in my facilitation techniques, which is an important part of the process, is to always be open to learning. Because as someone expressed earlier, I walk away from these things and I beat myself up for days sometimes for not doing something that I thought I should have done, or for actually doing something that I did that I thought, oh no, I could have given so much trauma by the way I've done it. But we are human, we have feet of clay, and hopefully if we meet them again, we can apologize for any travesties we've caused and any traumas. I really did enjoy today. I really am learning, and it's a lot harder than it looks, isn't it? Thank you.
Cheers, Dean. Anne, can I call on you?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I feel a bit that I wish I'd ensured that we'd have a bit more time for feedback and debrief, because I think that the debrief after facilitating is really important, and it's good to do after every time you facilitate, I think. And cramming challenges for 3 people into short facilitation sessions meant that there was a heavy dose of challenges going on. And when I was trying to meet a facilitator's challenge requirements of emotional and aggression potentially, I hadn't kind of bargained in that actually the poor listener would have to be being challenged by that at the same time. I wasn't thinking about my listener, I was thinking about the facilitator. So yeah, it was interesting, but I do think that that we were really working as a team together in enhancing our skills collectively, and we were all part of making that happen and helping each other. So it was really quite a wonderful experience. And please don't go away traumatized in any way. And if you want to call me for a bit more debriefing, please do, or contact me, any of the people in my group.
Thanks, Anne. Lou.
Yeah, I actually feel exactly the way Anne just described. Same thing. I felt like we really worked as a group to learn from each other and to practice the circle and facilitate. And also, I challenged with the time. You know, Sunita did not get a chance to debrief at all, and in fact we exited the circle in the middle of her doing something with me or responding to a challenge that I was presenting. So yeah, finding a way to make sure that there is adequate time, because it does take time to have those things happen and then to reflect on them, which is part of where the learning happens. I wanted to point out one thing that happened in our circle, which we didn't have a chance to talk about at all, which is that I was playing the part of a participant, a speaker who's kind of disgruntled and not enjoying the process and complaining about it a lot and questioning it a lot. And Aaron, and kind of vigorously, not just, you know, whatever, and Aaron did a great job of just staying with me and reflecting me back, you know, even though I was saying very judgmental things. And Sunita, who was facilitating, recognizing that what I was doing was okay. It was within the process. So she didn't interrupt me and say, you know, well, that's very judgmental what you're saying, or because I'm the speaker, I can say those things. And so, yeah, and I shifted. By the end, I shifted a little bit, because that's part of what happens when even someone who's very upset. So I wanted to name the fact that that happened, because we hadn't had a chance to talk about it at all in the circle. And you will get that, someone who has something very judgmental to say, you know, they're very riled up, but they're the speaker. You know, they're not the listener, they're the speaker, and they're entitled to say what they want to say. So just very grateful for today, and grateful to the three of you.
Good, thanks, Lou. Bill.
Yeah, I just want to, you know, restate that I feel so grateful for everybody there. I also, in this thing, I really appreciate what Rasha said, because it wasn't quite what everybody was saying, and she had a different experience, and I felt that that was really important to say. And, you know, I look forward in future classes to work through that as much as possible. Ben, I meant no disrespect when I criticized your bookshelf, you know, vertical and horizontal. It's nothing, but I think that's a misdemeanor, I think. Maybe a little community service would be in order. You know, just had some fun. And also, but I really enjoyed also being with Ben. And, you know, we were sort of co-facilitating for the first time, and I really appreciated the give and take that there was there. I felt I could say things, I don't know, we'll do another thing to see whether I stepped on your toes or not. But I really appreciated that. So thank you all.
Cheers, Bill. Edwin.
Yeah, our group was small, just 3 people. Maritel was having trouble connecting. She sent an email, just said that her internet wasn't working. Something that kind of stood out for me was just the power of empathy, and how correcting or teaching can sort of be disconnecting. If you feel like you're being taught or being corrected, it's like, oh, you know, a little irritating. But that if it happens within the circle, and it's sort of a technique that I've used, it instead of maybe correcting someone right away, like if I've been in a circle where the silent listeners are like holding up signs and, you know, playing around, or Celine mentioned, you know, someone listening, looking at their cell phone and, you know, just not paying attention, that when it's your turn to speak, you kind of speak to them and say, you know, when you hold up that sign, it's really this, you know, irritating, or I really don't appreciate the, you know, or whatever, or even about, you know, it'd be kind of nice if you would pay attention instead of be off, you know, looking at your cell phone. And then they have to reflect what you've said. And it actually creates a sense of connection, that the empathic reflection, you know, creates a sense of connection. And also, you know, if there's a correction, kind of starting with that correction of empathizing first, saying, oh, and then saying what you have to say. And I think Lou has written that, you know, quite nicely in the challenges list there too. So those are just some thoughts. Yeah.
I think Shima's not been called upon. Shima, have you been?
I spoke for a little bit. Thank you.
So if we've all checked out, then I guess that's sort of into any final comments from the trainers, I guess, about during the week, about next Tuesday.
Actually, I'd like to add a word to what Edwin just said about how to intervene, and this is because Shema mentioned this too. You know, when you see something happening as a facilitator, how do you intervene without criticizing, you know, or correcting? You know, is there a way to do that? And what I try to do, the steps I try to take are to name what's happening. So if a person is asking a question or adding, let's say a reflector is asking a question or evaluating, you know, what the person said or adding their own information, I would name that. So I'd say, so I hear you asking a question, or I hear you're adding something that you understand about the situation, or you're commenting on what the person is saying. And then I'd say, what the reason that we do what we do. So the idea is to just reflect back what the person is saying, because the idea is we want them to be heard. That's the most important thing, is for them to feel like they're heard. And so would you be willing to, and then the third step is to invite them into what you want them to do. So would you just reflect back what you heard the person say? And and sometimes it takes more than that. Sometimes you need to offer the person a little bit of empathy for what their issue is. You know, if they're having a problem, if it's an objection or you know, some kind of dissatisfaction, you might have to also offer them a little bit of understanding for what they're feeling. But yeah, those are the elements that I use when I'm doing an intervention.
Yeah, I'll just add briefly that certainly everything that Edwin and Lou said, I would agree with. And one of the things that I do is I front load it, and I'll say, if I correct you, when I remember to say it, is if I correct you, it's not a criticism of you or your ideas, but simply to just keep us in the process. And that tends to take away the power struggle and, you know, stick to the process. That's it.
Okay, do you want to say anything about next week, Bill or Lou or whoever?
Next week, we are basically going to be doing the same thing we did today, except we will not be practicing the intros again. So we'll have more time for the practice. And I think the other thing we will be doing is we'll be reflecting again on the culture of empathy, or the values of a culture of empathy, and how this practice is an embodiment of that, or a reflection of it. So kind of bringing that back into awareness. And it's not in a big way, but that will be a topic of reflection, at least, if not discussion.
And again, I'll be sending out an email. You'll have a new empathy buddies to connect with. You'll have the same assignment, you know, try to hold an empathy circle, family, friends, or whoever, if you're able to manage it. Then there'll be the link to the feedback form as well. And there's also, in the feedback form now, there's a question about challenges. If you want to jot down any of the challenges you had or any thoughts about the challenges, you can post it there, as well as there's the challenge Google Doc at the bottom. You can also put in more. You're sort of trying to harvest those challenges that you might have and develop a list of responses, and so that's helpful too.
Yeah, and I'll say another word about that, which is that, so we will be, the facilitation practice next week, you will have the option of having challenges again if you would like them. So something you might look at is the list of common challenges. So we have a list that that I started and that Edwin has posted and people have added things to. And you might look at that list and think about which ones are most worrisome to you or scary and or yeah, that you and so you might ask for that specifically, or talk about when it's your turn to facilitate, you might take a minute to talk about the areas where you think challenge you might be worried about, so that you know, you could maybe have a chance to practice those particular ones. I mean, it's up to you, but. And our goal in offering the challenges is to have you experience what it's like to face it and to feel, you know, what happens in your body and your emotions, to have that come up and then have to deal with it, and to do all that without overwhelming you. That's our goal, is to have you experience it and not be overwhelmed by it, so that you get a chance to feel it and work with it, because that's part of overcoming it, or part of learning to deal with it. Because that's the hardest part, is your emotional reaction to it. You know, that's what keeps you from being able to problem solve and think about it. You know, when you feel strong emotions, your forebrain shuts down. You know, we all get about, I think we lose about 15 IQ points, you know, when we're really triggered emotionally and we can't think. So the idea is to be able to practice that, working through it, so it doesn't have such a strong effect on you.
Okay, well, I think that's it. Is that anything, Bill? So with that, we have our twinkle fingers. We'll see you next week. Keep tuned for the email. We'll see you there, and the trainees hang around, and we're going to have a little bit of a debrief afterwards. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great week.
Bye. Have a good week.
Bye.
Take care.
Do empathy circles.
Do empathy circles.